All right, all, and welcome back to another video of the Let's Talk Racing YouTube channel in association with Racing TV. And you may not have seen me and Josh for a couple of weeks. We've had a bit of a detox after Cheltenham. We had a great week. It was great to see so many viewers there, so many listeners there. And fingers crossed, you all backed a few winners. We backed a couple ourselves. We always want a couple more than we did. But we've got Josh here. We're back to the old school days now. We're over Skype. You've gone and turfed off. You said this detox is too much. You had to go to America.
Yeah, no, it's been nice. It's been my birthday, and we've been away for a couple of weeks. We're in New York and now in Florida, and just enjoying myself. It's nice to have something to look forward to after Cheltenham. I think because obviously the whole year my brain is just thinking Martin Pipe, Coral Cup, Boodles. It's quite nice to have something to look forward to after, and that was the case this year. And we're away enjoying myself. Back next week. Looking forward to getting stuck into Aintree. We'll be at Aintree on the Saturday. Working on the big screen as well, which will be nice. So if you are there, do say hello. Looking forward to hopefully interviewing some of you as well. Very much looking forward to the racing. But obviously this weekend we have the Irish Grand National meeting at Fairyhouse. 3 days of really good racing. And there's probably a couple of interesting bets to put down as well.
Yeah, I'd say so. It's a meeting that's gotten better and better each year. I think they've gradually added to, I suppose, the other cards. It used to be that the Saturday and Sunday were hopeless cards, and you get to the Irish Grand National on the Monday. It was near on the only feature. But we're going to take you through all the pretty important races, to be honest. The big handicap on the Saturday, the graded races on the Sunday, and the graded races and the Irish National being the last one before maybe a couple of best bets at the end of the video. We'll get quickly through it. We want to keep on firing through, because Josh's internet over in America could combust at any single stage. So therefore, we must get going. So we'll start off with the Saturday. Big handicap hurdle near the end of the card at 5:05, the 2 mile Rybo handicap hurdle. Tough old little race. Don't have much betting going on, but we do have the entries for it as we're recording on the Thursday. Who do you fancy?
I thought the one that was interesting is Risk Bell. Obviously, all season people have been thinking that she'd go in a big handicap, just third in the Boodles, looking like the likely winner, jumping the last. And I just thought step down in trip would see her at her best. And I think she's still very much on a workable mark. And you should expect if she is going, if they want her to run a big race, she can do just that. And I suspect she's running out of opportunities this season. So maybe Risk Bell for me.
Yeah, I can see that. Obviously, going to Fairyhouse, probably an easier finish as well will suit. The one I landed on was actually the Big Doyen, who's been a horse that's maybe been a little bit disappointing this season, given how lofty his bumper campaign was. But at the same stage, he was very unlucky to be thrown out in the steward's room at Punchestown when he would have beaten Nucky Johnson. Nucky Johnson's a very good horse in his own right. I just get the sense with the Big Doyen, he's looking for a fast gallop to go at, which you're more than likely going to get in a handicap hurdle such as this. I think it'll be an each way price of 125. There's definitely scope for improvement off that. Owned by a great bunch of lads, real enthusiasts of the game, and I really hope they can land a big pot with them. We'll move straight on to Sunday. Sunday, starting off with the Mayor's Novice Hurdle, or Mayor's Novice Handicap, or Mayor's Novice Hurdle, should I say, over 2 mile 4. Plenty of these that ran in the Mayor's Novice at Cheltenham. None of them won. Magical Zoe was the best of the Irish in second. You have Astro Diamond coming into the mix, though, as well, Josh.
It's a tricky one. I don't love Astro Diamond, to be perfectly honest with you. I know she's at the top of the market. And Magical Zoe, I'm not really in love with her too. I know that she finished second ahead of a horse who I'm going to put up for the race. But the way that she was ridden, she was never really put in it, or she was given a lot to do at Cheltenham. And I'm just not convinced with her staying 2.5 miles. Maybe it's exactly what she wants, but I'm just not absolutely convinced whether Halka de Tabert, who finished third in the Mayor's Novice at Cheltenham, has won a point-to-point over 3 miles. I think is 5-1. And Magical Zoe's 3-1. I just think that represents slightly more value. I think Halka just struggled pace-wise at Cheltenham. Didn't really have the turn of foot that she needed. And I do think that the step up and trip will suit. So Halka for me at 5-1.
Would you have any reservations the last time she was going right-handed? She did seem to shift ever so slightly to her left.
It would obviously be a slight concern. But that being said, going slightly slower up in trip, I'd maybe give her another run.
Yeah, no, I can see that. It's a hard race. As you say, I was very, very disappointed with how Lotta Joy ran at Cheltenham. I was very keen on her for the Mayor's Novice. She seemed to be on the wrong side of the track. She kind of went out like a light as well. She's 10-1. Whether you'd give her another chance to redeem herself, I'd probably be within your camp about going against Ashrow Diamond. Not really sure she wants the guts of 2.5 miles, to be honest. I think she's a speedy horse. If anything, I'd have had perhaps reservations about her staying in the Mayor's Novice over 2 mile one, to be honest. So if I have that, I'm going to keep that up. Magical Zoe probably is the form horse when you look at the Down Royal run, and obviously finishing the best of all of these in the Mayor's Novice. But I'm like you, I probably have those reservations. I might give Lotta Joy a little bit of a squeak. Wouldn't be one of my stronger ones. Moving on to the 2.5 mile novice hurdle, open race for geldings and mares if they do so please. The 3:10, tough little race. There's a fair few of these that haven't even run at Cheltenham as well, so hard to gauge that form.
Yeah, very hard. I remember Grom Parody, I think, won this race a couple of years ago. I was a big fan of him at the time. He obviously didn't really kick on to show what we expected of him at the time. A horse in the same silks that did run at Cheltenham in the Supreme was Dr. Bravo. I think that he will appreciate a step up in trip. I think we'll see a much better Dr. Bravo here than we did at Cheltenham. That being said, very excited by the Gunner Yates, who was bought for Willie Mullins and Rich Ritchie for an awful lot of money. I think it was £380,000, astronomical fees. And it took him a run to get off the mark over hurdles, but he did on his last start. He was very impressive, and I do think there's more to come from him. And he'd be one that I'd be really excited about if he go chasing next year. He'll obviously need probably a couple of runs. I'd imagine he could run here and Punchestown. I know it's quite soon, but there's no reason why he couldn't do that because he's only had the 2 runs this season. I just expect a big bold show from him, and he'd be a horse I'd be really excited about next year over a larger obstacle.
Yeah, no, I can see that completely. And obviously some of his form has been boosted as well in the last week. One of my stronger bets of the weekend actually comes in this race, and it comes in the shape of Deep K for Henry de Bromhead. I just think you look back at that race in Nathaniel Lacey, which got a few decent nudges at Cheltenham. A few of the horses in front of him ran very well. I just think he's a horse that's better than what he showed that day as well. And he was a close-up fifth. He won his maiden hurdle over Christmas time, where he was very impressive over 2.5 miles. It's just one of those horses that may have benefited from the fact that he didn't go to Cheltenham, didn't take in that hard race, and may be able to sweep a prize like this. Again, a little bit like the Gunner Yates, probably a horse that we're going to see the best of next year when tackling a fence. Henry de Bromheads usually do appreciate going novice chasing. They do tend to improve for it in the main. So he may be one to keep on side from that respect, but I think he's got a very good chance in this race itself. The 3:45, the race after that, is very similar race. There's an awful lot of duplicate entries between the 2.5 mile race and the 2 mile novice hurdle. I might start off here. I think Found a 50 has got a huge chance in this. I think Corbett's Cross didn't do anything wrong for the form, because I think if you stopped the Albert Partner 2 furlongs out, you would have thought Corbett's Cross would have hacked up. They were a mile clear the last day at Naas. I think he showed enough to suggest that he's got a grade 2 in him. And to be honest, like, you do look at the last couple of years, the Morans do deserve a little bit of luck with some of these horses. You know, they've bought an awful lot of horses for a lot of money. Plenty of them haven't turned out to what they want to be. This horse has shown himself off to be pretty good form in the tank. He's won a maiden hurdle going right-handed. He's come second the last day behind a very good horse, miles clear a third. I think he'll take a lot of beating in this.
I think I was going along the same lines of you, to be honest. I know that the owners also have American Mike, who I don't know what's going on with him this season.
What was your thoughts on American Mike at Cheltenham? We never really dissected that, you know, because he ended up getting to the Ballymore by hook or by crook, and went off, I think, 33-1 or something like that. Ran okay.
Yeah, it was a weird one. You're thinking when he's actually turning up, like he's had an appalling season. He's shown no signs of even running in a Ballymore. Turns up on the day, so you've got a quiet bit of confidence that Gordon fancies his chances, maybe to run a big race and not win, or just run a much better race than we've seen all season. And I think that probably was the case until about 3 out. Like, he was travelling pretty well, he was jumping all right, and then just from 3 out, didn't really do anything at all. I don't know what's going to happen with American Mike. He might just be very average. Again, like you say, the Morans deserve a bit of luck. They've had the good horse last year, who broke down in the Albert Bartlett, absolutely brutal. But other than that, they're really struggling to notch up a proper top notcher. And hopefully, well, it's not going to be American Mike. Hopefully, it could be a Fountain 50. But yeah, no, it is an interesting one. I just think Fountain 50 here, like you say, I think that form behind Corvus Cross is good form, as one right-handed. And maybe if Dr. Bravo was to run here, I think they will go up and trip with him, but I know he's entered here as well. Maybe if he was to run, he'd be of interest. But I couldn't back a Hunter's Yarn after a really poor run at Cheltenham. I couldn't back any of those that were disappointed there.
Yeah, no, I agree completely with that. American Mike just doesn't seem to be really finishing out his races at the moment. I think unfortunately, there's a small bit of a hole in them at the moment. Whether they'll be able to resurrect that at any stage, I'm not so sure. Moving on to the 2.5 mile Grade 1 Novice Chase, really the feature of the Sunday card, been won by plenty of good horses in the past. I suppose it does still revolve around Mighty Potter, this race. Won the Drinmore over course and distance. Won brilliantly at Leopardstown. People had a few niggly issues about him being at Cheltenham, and he didn't perform at Cheltenham. Or did he? You know, it's hard. I know we were maybe a slightly bit critical and criticised for the fact that we gave Stage Star no credit in the Turners, when we obviously do have to appreciate that he put in a very good performance, a very good jumping performance. But surely Mighty Potter didn't run up to what he'd been running up to prior to going to Cheltenham.
No, he definitely didn't. I couldn't understand anyone thinking that he did. Laura Morgan's a brilliant trainer, but her training the second in that race not long till May behind Stage Star, a horse who'd been beating convincingly prior this season. I know he won the handicap, beating That's Right Gino on Trials Day, but that's not form that's good enough to beat what Mighty Potter's done this season. And I suspect if he runs here, Mighty Potter will cement his position as the number 1 2.5 mile novice chaser around. My slight, I think they will run, but he could go to the 3 mile race at Punchestown, especially as Jerry Colombe is meant to be running at Aintree. So that would be my only thinking, that they might go that way with Mighty Potter. I know Gordon sees him as a Gold Cup horse down the line, but obviously this is a Grade 1 that's winnable. I don't think it's the deepest race in the world. I think there's some good horses in there. Flame Bear is interesting. Appreciate it's interesting. Will they run? Will they not? I personally just think Mighty Potter is better than them. He'd obviously won the Drinmore at the course last year, and I just suspect we didn't see the best of him at Cheltenham. I know we didn't see the best of him at Cheltenham, and 2.5 mile, whatever it is whether it's travelling, whether it's the actual course, he just doesn't seem to like Cheltenham. It was poor in the Supreme the year before. He wasn't his best in the Turners, and I do think that Mighty Potter is the best 2.5 mile novice chaser around.
Yeah, no, it's hard to disagree with it. I'm interested to know your thoughts on what happens if on the off chance he doesn't run, because I feel if he doesn't run, Banbridge will be favoured for this race. And I just would be really worried about him on this ground. You know, it's still soft, heavy in places at Fairyhouse. He's clearly shown himself off to be a good ground horse. They skipped Cheltenham on the day on account of the ground. And I know I have a bit of a bee in my bonnet about Banbridge. I just don't think he's quite as good as people think he is. But at the same stage, certainly on that type of ground, I wouldn't be really with him. But I do think the race suddenly turns into a bit of a minefield. I was very disappointed with Appreciated in the Turners, and I almost want Mighty Potter to run because I would back him. As for I don't know who I actually would back if he wasn't in the race.
It's a tricky one to appreciate it, because he had quite close runs at the Dublin Racing Festival and before the Dublin Racing Festival, and maybe you could put his lacklustre performance at Cheltenham down to that. So I wouldn't love the fact that he's reappearing here 3 or 4 weeks after Cheltenham. I think he has had a relatively hard second half of the campaign, and that would be the slight worry with him. I'd have personally liked to have seen him maybe going to Punchestown, keep fresh, or even Aintree for the 2.5 mile race. I think a race like that on a flat track would suit him. Honestly, if Mighty Potter doesn't run, I'm not sure who I'd back. Banbridge, obviously it's a massive positive that he didn't run at Cheltenham. He didn't have that hard race, but the ground isn't in his favour. Will they even run? Is Flame Bearer good enough? I just do not know. I'm hoping Mighty Potter does run, and I'm hoping he stamps his authority on these.
Yep, I can't disagree with that. We'll move on to Monday. We'll take in the two Grade 2 races before the last being the Irish National itself. The Keeling's hurdle, the 2.5 mile hurdle, looked a tricky race. It's hard to know who's going to even turn up. Sanahir's in here, but he's also in the Aintree hurdle the following week. Not sure which one he's going to turn up in. So he would be probably the standard bearer if he does run. I think it's a can of worms of a race if he comes out of it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Look, it seems like I've designed this video by putting up Gordon Elliott horses left, right, and centre. Hopefully, he has a great Sunday. If not, we're in real trouble. But on Monday, it's interesting. Monkfish has got an entry. It would be nice to see him run. Just nice to see him on a race course again. Obviously, the Brown advisory has damaged a few of horses close to my heart. Over the last few years, and Top of the Game was one of those.
They tend to be big horses as well. Big, tall horses.
They do tend to be big, tall horses, and it'd be nice to see him back. That being said, I do think that if Sanahir runs, like he was third in the champion hurdle. The one thing I think he will run here, because I just get the impression that Gordon probably knows he'll very likely bump into one at Aintree. Like it happened last year. He was absolutely. I know he fell, but he would never got anywhere near Epitome. And I just fear that he's always going to bump into one at Grade 1 level. And here, at Grade 2, 2.5 miles, Gordon will want to win as many races as he can here, as always. And I just think this is going to be an easier task. So I think Sanahir will run. And I think he'll probably win if he runs to anywhere near his Cheltenham run.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that in terms of that he should be winning this. I just have slight worries about Sanahir. That I think when you have a horse like him that's been running in those top quality races, you almost can get used to finishing second or third, and you don't even then take that opportunity in the easing class. That being said, I couldn't near on fancy anything else. My good old friend Asterion Forlange is in there, for goodness sake. Like, I was near on tempted to even select him at one stage. That's how bad it was getting, because I was looking at it going, dearie me, like, as you say, it would be great to see Monkfish out and about, but you couldn't be backing him for a 2.5 mile hurdle race on the back of that absence. And there's plenty of horses. Beacon Edge I'm surprised he's getting to Fairyhouse. I thought he'd still be running around Cheltenham in the Coral Cup. Like, he was absolutely hopeless. So, a can of worms of a race. Sanahir's the best horse in there. Wouldn't really be a betting race for me. And I'm going to preface it by saying the Grade 2 Chase wouldn't really be a betting race for me either. I think it's an equally difficult race. You've got horses in there I couldn't be having. I know Janadil's in there. He's the type of horse that's got the ability to win this race, but he's so hot and cold. When you need him most, he'll never be there for you. When you want him beat, he'll always go and beat you. Chacun Pour Soi just seems to have come to the end of his tether, really. It's a little bit of a disappointing damp squib of an end of a season or end of a career for him. I don't think he deserves to be kind of dragged through the mud like he is. Now, I could be eating humble pie because he could go out and win one of these races, I suppose. And I think if they did win one of them, they'd pull stumps immediately. And they clearly think he's operating still to a certain level that he could win a Grade 2. He's clearly on his best, the class horse in this race. I don't know whether you could trust him or not. That's where I'm coming back to the whole idea that it's probably a no-bet race. But at the same stage, Chacun at his best would win it. Janadil at his best would have a very fair chance, but don't think you could trust them.
Is this not just going to go to easy game 3 years in a row?
There's probably every chance, but at the same stage, he'll be a price, because I can guarantee he'll almost be the third string of the Mullins lot on jockey bookies.
Exactly, which is why it's interesting. I echo what you say about Chacun Pour Soi. I think he was an unbelievable 2-miler a couple of years ago, and it is a shame that he is not a shame that he's been campaigned like this. Like, he's a racehorse, he needs to race. But I do think that if he had won maybe a champion chase last year or the year before, that he wouldn't be running in this 2.5-mile race, and they would have pulled stumps sooner. I think Easy Game might make it 3 years in a row. I really do. I looked at Janadil, didn't run any kind of race in the Ryanair. Easy Game's fresh, knows what to do in this race exactly, has done it twice before, and I suspect he could make it 3 years in a row.
Which will move us on then to the big one, the Irish National. But what people are watching the video for, let's be honest with ourselves, a huge race. And they'll just look at somebody like Josh Stacey and go, well, why do I need to look at the Irish National? Because Josh is going to solve it for me.
The last race you want me trying to solve is an Irish Grand National. Is it to be fair, a handicap chase? Handicap in Ireland isn't where I'm seen at my best. Not that I'm seen at my best at many places. But the two I'd go with, I'd just give it. Obviously, Lord Lariat is second in the market. He's been found. He's 10-1. I think he will go there with a massive chance. A spin over hurdles the last day. I think he's going to come on for that. This has been the plan for as long as I think the season has been run. And then the one that I did think that was slightly overpriced and I think is better than his mark is Am I Right? That being said, could he run in the 3-mile grade 1 at Punchestown? It's a possibility. He's 20-1. I might back him each way if he does run, because I do think that he's better than 138, and I suspect that he would have no issue staying as well. So Am I Right? Maybe inexperience might find him out in a big hustle bustle field, but I just think he might be classy enough. Could even be a 145, 150 horse down the line.
One horse and one word in this race. Redemption is what I'm looking for. I've looked through the race. I've taken the puzzle apart and I've just gone, I'm going to get it back. I'm going to get my money back for getting done the width of my nails in the Kinmure, and I'm going to go in again on Stumptown. I just think he's got a huge chance in this race. I don't think he came away from the Kinmure with anything that you wouldn't have been not proud of him. He jumped maybe not quite as well as he did at Sandown the time before. He'll be back to being professionally ridden. Gavin Cromwell's a master. He's now getting £9 from Angel's Dome, and he wouldn't have done in the Kinmure. I think he can turn that form around. Angel's Dawn's found in the market. He's currently 10-1 best price. I think that's fair, because I don't think, to be honest, like, he's not a Rick or anything like that, but at the same stage, he has performed well enough and has improved well enough to suggest that he should be that type of price. I don't think the trip will be of any issue. I think he would run him over near on 7 miles and he'd keep going at the same pace. I don't think he's a quickener by any stretch. I think he'll just keep plugging away, and he'd be my main selection for this race. Obviously, people will want to know what I think about Gallant John Joe, residing in there at number 25 at 50-1. Ollie McKiernan's horses, they can't stop winning at the moment. Keep turning on, Ray. I'm in the office every day. I'm seeing these colours winning. I'm not having a Dickie Bird on them. It's absolutely killing me. So, of course, I'll back Gallant John Joe. He's well up against us here, though, unfortunately. And I just wonder whether he's lost his bottle a little bit over fences. He jumped poorly in the Paddy Power when I really quite fancied him. He's always had a big handicap like this in him to run well in. Wouldn't surprise me if he ran well, and whether you want to take a huge play at 50-1 with 6-7 places is up to yourselves. I will do so, but that's because I'm mad and sometimes I'm a little bit irresponsible, Josh.
How much does it hurt that Gallant John Joe may have lost his bottle?
It pains me to say it. It pains me even more that
I can see the tears in your eyes.
We were sitting in work when he was back over hurdles a few Sundays ago, and he comes in swinging into the straight on the bridle and gets beaten by an absolute rick of a JP McManus thing with them around 5 lengths clear a third at 25-1. Like, you really couldn't make this sort of stuff up. He deserves to get a big day. I don't think it will be in the Irish National personally, but we've got to spin the wheel and hope for the best. Before we finish up, we've obviously gone through many of the big races. Best bets for the weekend, maybe from the races we've done. Maybe you've found another Rick for somewhere else.
Well, I'm going to mention a few things actually. I think there's a form line to take forward, and the first and second are entered in the bumper on Monday at Fairyhouse, and the third was Irish Panther, who was 2 lengths behind Factor File on his previous start. The second was Quantum Storm, trained by Gordon Elliott, owned by Bedford Stud. They think very, very, very highly of him, and obviously Ballyburn, who is at the tip of all of the anti-post markets for the Cheltenham Festival next year, and then obviously hurdle departments, the Ballymore and the Albert Bartlett especially. Really excited about him. I just think that those 3 horses will prove to be well above average. I'm really excited about the second just as much as the first. Maybe the first is a Grade 1 horse, maybe the second is as well. But I do think Quantum Storm's very exciting. Not saying that he'll reverse the form with Ballyburn in the bumper on Fairyhouse on Monday, but that's just a race to watch. I think those three are very good, and the first and second are on show there if they both run. And then 3 best bets. I'm going to go. This is my final nudge towards this horse in his entire career, because I've been there far too many times, and he's let me down. But he was second, a very close second, off the same mark in this race 12 months ago. He's running at Haydock in the 2-mile handicap hurdle final, and it is Castel Gandolfo at 10-1. He's 10-1. This has been the plan all year, running off the same mark. I just think if he's going to have his day, it's going to be here. I'm going to back Castel Gandolfo for the last time at Haydock, 1:30 on Saturday. And then I've got 2 winners for you on Wednesday. 2 horses who I think will go in. Southall, 3 o'clock, Little Miss Dante, if she runs. She ran a huge race on debut. I think she's the best horse in that race by a country mile. She was beaten. I think that if they had it again, they would have made slightly more use of her. She was full of running at the end. I think she'll go in here. It's a very standard bumper, 3 o'clock Southall on Wednesday. And then another one on the same card, actually, at Southall in the 4:05 is Dan Skelton trained Great Samurai. I think they thought he would go a bit higher than he has so far this season. I suspect he might be a short enough price, maybe 2-1, maybe 9-4, but I think he'll win. And this race looks very average.
Well, I don't know whether in America they still refer to it as the men in white coats, but we may have to send one around to Florida. So I didn't think I'd ever hear Castel Gandolfo. I was thinking you were going to tell me that Battle Over Doyen was in some handicap chase at Fairyhouse. We'll probably have to go to Punchestown for one of the days to see him. But dearie me, I don't think I can really speak about that, to be honest. I've only got the 2. I've only got the 2, and I'm trying to keep away from my cliff horses in doing so. And I'm going to put up 2 of the ones that I put up as my stronger ones earlier on in the video. The 5:05 on Saturday, the big Doyen. I think he will be an each-way price. I think he'll be around 7-8-1. I think he's got an enormous chance in the big handicap hurdle. And the 2.5-mile Grade 2 novice hurdle, the 3:10 on Sunday, I'm taking a chance on Henry de Bromhead's Deep Cave. I think he might be a bit better than what he showed at Leopardstown the last day. If he goes back to his maiden hurdle form, he'd have to have a huge chance in this race against a few horses that have had tough races and a few horses that maybe just aren't quite as good as him. So those are my 2. No white coats for me, or maybe there will be at the end of the weekend. But Castel Gandolfo is the one that you're bringing to the grave, seemingly.
It is. I'm sorry I've let you down. I just can't let him go and back to 10-1 off the same mark, because he finished so close in the same race in last year. And if he doesn't win here, he'll never win for me. So I know just to leave him and let him have his day being backed by someone else other than me.
I think that's a fair enough way to finish up. We really hope you did enjoy this video. It's good to be back previewing races. Obviously, a very entertaining end of the season. We've got Fairyhouse. We'll be back for Aintree next week. And then obviously Punchestown, where myself and Josh will be over for a couple of days, which will be great fun. If you did enjoy this video, please do like it down below. Subscribe to the channel down below. And of course, check out LTR Plus, where we'll have a few fun things by the end of the season. And we've got some really big plans for next year as well. So really hope you did enjoy it. And we'll see you very soon.